Yeah. All right, Nick. If I was meeting you 15 years ago, who would be the person that I would be meeting?
Oh, 15 years ago. Okay, so 15 years ago, I would have just got out of the grips of addiction. So I've been sober for 12, coming on 13 years now. So that would have been, who would that have been? That would have been a pretty troubled, pretty challenged human being that was trying to refigure life out.
Yeah. Okay. What was the thing that happened in your brain to make you go, I've got to change, or something has to change? What was the triggering point?
So it's a question that's asked quite a lot, actually. And there wasn't an individual big epiphany. For me, it was incremental things over time that led to a point where it got clear that the ramifications of my drug and alcohol use became clearer. I always say that addiction is like a fog. It keeps you trapped and stuck inside this fog of being unable to see the true experience or the true ramifications or true challenges that life is presenting you. So I think when you start to get a glimpse of what's actually going on and the difficulties and challenges and the reality of life for you, that was for me was the sort of the catalyst.
Yeah, right. So what were you doing as a job at the time, and like how were you through those years of addiction? How was it all being funded and stuff like that? Like, was everything that you were getting like just funneling straight into that, and was that a contributing factor to why you were like, I've got to change?
Yeah, I mean, generally it was wake up, use drugs. If it hadn't have any, get some, use drugs, then go to bed, and then rinse and repeat. Wow. And it, throughout the whole spectrum of what was available at that time, drug-wise, is what I used. So yeah, I mean, I have had a lot of jobs when I was younger. Holding down a job and having a pretty hardcore addiction are two things that are fairly challenging, as you can probably imagine. So yeah, it was my life was very much dedicated to surrounding myself. So we used to do a lot of illegal raves. We used to organize a lot of illegal raves and things like that. So I was into that party culture, and being sort of one of the central people involved in that community and that culture, allowed me to have access to whatever I wanted pretty much all the time. So it was a combination of that, really.
Yeah, right. That's super, super interesting. I also had a lot of jobs and stuff growing up. And do you find that having a lot of different jobs made it a little bit easier for you to transition out, or like use all those skills that you got from the different jobs to kind of progress into where you are today?
I think if you want to become a master of anything, then you need to dedicate a consistently large amount of time. And people talk about 10,000 hours, as you know. That will differ depending on what you're trying to achieve and how difficult that is, the thing you're trying to achieve is. But I think having a range of backgrounds and experiences widens your horizons of and gives you a greater understanding and a cross-section of life. But I think from a specialist standpoint, becoming an expert, which I would consider myself in the hypnosis field now, because I've been doing it for close to 15 years, that it would have been better to have hit one thing and done that for 25, 30 years, right?
Yeah, true.
I think that's the general rule of thumb. But no, look, I look back with regret? And there are things that I absolutely wouldn't repeat and do things, differently. And if I had my head on differently, then I probably would have dived into something that I would have been more passionate about. The thing is, those days gave me the reason to learn hypnosis, the reason to dive into psychology as deep as I have done, the reason to go down the self-development angle and self-development rabbit hole, which I know you've been down as well, to the level that I have, which enables me to help my clients currently to the level that I can. So it's all that sort of rich tapestry of my past has created who I am in the present. So without that, I wouldn't be who I am today. I'd be someone different, obviously.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense. It's Yeah, that was a really, really good way of explaining it. I really like listening to that. Can you take me through your journey, like from becoming sober to how did you even get into hypnosis? Like I wouldn't even, like for me anyway, like, I don't know, I've heard of, the hypnosis to stop smoking and stuff. I think my cousin's actually done it and he completely stopped smoking. But other than that, I've never really heard of too much to do with hypnosis. So I'm just kind of interested to, how you got to that point.
So for whatever reason, I was always interested in self-development since I was about 15. Like a lot of people, Tony Robbins was a gateway drug to self-development. And at 15 and 16, I was devouring the books and the audios and all the things that he did back then and still does, obviously, to today. But that was, for some reason, I had this fascination and this passion for self-development, as well as having this passion for destruction, if you like, both physically, mentally, financially, and everything that comes with addiction. So in tandem with these two paths running. And I always say that if I hadn't had that fascination for that self-development component, I wouldn't be here today. It was that passion, that curiosity, that interest in that world that kept me on the straight and narrow enough for me to get to the point where I said, right, enough is enough. I need to deal with this addiction, and had already built a foundation of tools and strategies and things that really helped me. Because if you look at addiction to the level that I went to, it's a very small percentage of people that actually get out of it, right? And when I look at the people who are either still in the grips of addiction, have died from addiction, or probably will never get out of addiction, one of the things that they're missing is this interest and passion for wanting to be better, wanting to understand how their brain works, their mind works, their body works, all these things. So I don't really truly know where I got that passion from. My parents and my brother don't really have any interest in the coaching world, all that sort of stuff. But it was my lifesaver, for sure.
Yeah, wow. That's crazy that you were doing it like alongside each other. I think, I'm not even sure if a lot of people could say that they do that, like, consuming on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and like all that type of stuff. Nowadays, it might be a little bit different, but back then, I think that's pretty wild that you were picking up books and reading about it when the first thing you were doing in the morning was drugs. The last thing you're doing was drugs. And yeah, to be able to pick up a book in the middle of that and read that's kind of fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I have a very curious mind, shall we say?
Yeah.
And when I dive into something, I go pretty deep. And there's good and bad components to that process, or to that way of applying that. But I'm grateful for that experience, because what it's taught me and the tools it's given me are not only, because everything I learned was all about how can I swear on this podcast?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, cool. Everything that I've read is like, how can I unfuck my own brain?
Yeah.
Like, how can I sort my own shit out to the point where it means I can deal with stuff? Because my life was a wreck. It was a train wreck for many, many, many years. And it was off the back of learning these tools and condensing and putting all these things together that I realized that I'm not alone here. Like, we've all got our own struggles. Everyone is in their own version of something that's challenging them, whether it's now or has been or will be in the future. And the human experience is a fascinating thing for me. So yeah, it was just an interest and ability and a curiosity like I'd never known that enabled me to deep dive into that stuff. And I suppose it was frustrating initially because I learned a lot of this stuff, but addiction is pretty hard to get out of. So there was a lot of frustration with trying to give up and apply these tools, and which is why hypnosis was such a powerful tool for me, because once I started to learn that and got qualified in that and understood how the brain works and the fact that we are hypnotizing ourselves on a daily basis without realizing it, because we're in and out of trance all day, and maybe we can touch on that later. But once I started to understand how that worked and how you can short track and fast track into the subconscious using a load of different methods, and then reinstalling something new, because ultimately the beliefs we have about ourselves create our world, right? And if you think about it that way, it's like, okay, well, what are the beliefs that I need to be sober in this instance? Or what are the beliefs I need to be an entrepreneur who's doing £100,000 a month? What are the beliefs that I need? And then understanding what are my current beliefs and how they got there and all those sort of things. I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, because we can go for hours on that. But please, if there's anything you want to unpack, then feel free to ask.
Yeah. I do want to get into that type of stuff, actually. I think it's super, super interesting. like, I suppose where I want to go at the second is just like, how did you turn it into a business? Like, what did you went from, like I said, waking up, going to sleep with drugs, and then you kind of turning it around a little bit.
Yep.
And then was it just your experience? You're like, shit, I can help other people.
Yeah, I've always had an interest in helping others. Again, I don't know where these things come from in that respect. But from a very young age, I enjoyed that process. I really love watching someone do something they didn't think they could do through my help.
Yeah.
Like just being that little catalyst, just to give them a little push and say, no, you can do that, try that. And then going above and beyond what they thought was possible. So there's always been that in me. I started off, like a lot of people do, trained as a PT, did weight loss coaching. That was the thing that sort of got me into the sort of coaching world and helping other people in a business context. And obviously a lot of people struggle with that. What was interesting off the back of that though, weight loss is not about food. Weight loss is not about exercise. Weight loss is about mindset that drives whether you do those things consistently or not.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
So the psychology is really what drives entrepreneurship, what drives life, what drives weight loss, what drives relationships, all of these things. And it was very clear to me that I could give you a recipe right now on a piece of paper, like a lot of people can, of if someone wants to add muscle to their physique or they want to drop body fat or whatever, I can give you a very simple recipe. The challenge is, can you stick to that consistently over the long enough period of time to make it happen, to get the result? So what is the one variable in between those two, the start and the finish goal, that are going to stop or allow you to get to it? And mindset and psychology is the biggest piece.
Yeah,
you know, it's not the only piece, but I would say like business is 80%. I mean, I heard Tony Robbins say this the other day, business is 80% psychology, you know, and 20% systems, logistics, and all the other things that come with that, right? And I think there's a lot of merit to that.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree with what you're saying. Like I've yo-yo dieted, like, you know, I've been 120 kilos and then 90 kilos and then the next year I'm 110, or, you know, that was just my fluctuation. I just like fluctuated 30 kilos type of thing. It was wild. And it happened on and off for like 5 years. And it's funny you say that because it's 100% the psychology. You see yourself in the mirror or something, you see something you don't like and you find the motivation to get up and go to the gym, and then you're like, okay, sweet, I'm going to the gym now, and then it becomes a part of your lifestyle. And then, you know, let's just say 6 months later, you're still going to the gym, but you're feeling good about yourself because you've dropped 10 kilos or so or whatever, and then you start going back to the pub, you start trying to go out and, you know, dance with girls, or like, you know, all these things start to happen, and then you start to feel good about yourself again on the weekends and a bit more confident, and then it's like that kind of just a bit of a bell curve type of thing, you know what I mean? Then you kind of go back the other way, or the roller coaster, just ups and downs. And I think definitely being consistent is the way to go in all of those
Consistency
things.
gets you results in everything as long as you're doing the right things consistently. Because obviously you can take the wrong actions. If you're consistently eating 10 pizzas a day and your goal is to lose weight, then obviously that's in conflict. But that is the challenge of getting any achievement in life, is being able to do what you need to do for long enough until the result comes into fruition.
Yeah, 100%. So where did I kind of want to move into the hypnosis side of it with entrepreneurs and like what you do for your actual business now. What's happening to someone before they come to you, and what do you change? And is it mainly hypnosis that you do, or is it something else?
So I have a bag of tricks.
Yeah.
Hypnosis is one of those tricks. And so to answer your question, there's really two components to what I do. There is, and I only work with entrepreneurs who are doing a minimum of 100K plus a year, right? As a baseline, just because the problems that you have when you're building a business up to that point are different to the problems that you have typically. Like, I'm not interested in telling you how to build a website or have those problems like we all have when we first start, right?
Yeah.
So there are two reasons that people will come to me. Firstly, they are stuck with a problem, and often that problem looks like that their income is going up and then down, up and down. There's like a roller coaster, right? It's a revenue roller coaster, as my good friend Ryan would say. And that, to me, if you've got the knowledge and the systems and the strategies, i.e. you know how to attract the right clients, convince those clients that your service or your product is the right thing for them, and then sell them and then receive the money, you know how to effectively build a business. You understand how that process works.
Gotcha.
So if it's not systems, then what is it? And that's where I come in. It's mindset and psychology. So it's understanding what are the limiting beliefs, what are the blocks that are at that moment in time causing that person to go through that roller coaster of revenue, right, up and down without consistent growth, or having a growth pattern that is going up. It doesn't always go up. There's obviously fluctuations, but it's heading the right direction. So if someone's stuck with something that is preventing them getting the revenue goals that they want, then that's one reason that they would come to me. Secondly, if they are someone who is already performing at a high level. So if you're someone who's earning 100 grand a month, right, or 500,000 a month, or whatever you're doing, and you want that edge, that's where I come into play. Because what you'll find is, just like an athlete wants to win the marathon, the race, whatever he's doing. And when you're racing and when you're playing at that level, and you're racing with people who are very, very competitive and are trained very, very well, and all the things that come with that, if you can get 1 or even 2% incremental gain or edge over your opponent, that could be the difference between you winning or not. So it depends where that person's at. And what typically happens is, once I've got you unstuck from whatever problem you're doing, and then you start to see greater revenue goals, because that's how I track progress pretty much with this stuff. Yes, you get confidence. Yes, you get all these wonderful things that come with that. But ultimately, for entrepreneurs, the bottom line is what they really want to do. Can they create the revenue they want to live the life they want and create the impact that they want? So those are really the two areas that I work with people.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Is there a really common problem you see with like these really high achievers and stuff like that? Is there something that's like super common that you'll be on a meeting with them or something like that, and they say, "Oh, this is my problem." You're just like, easy.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few, and yeah, they are mostly easy to deal with when you've got the right tools. One of them, which was mine for a long time, was the fear of putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's a big one, because if you're an entrepreneur, like a lot of people here in Bali and a lot of people around the world who are using Instagram, and they need to be putting themselves out daily, or they need to be doing regular content on podcasts or whatever it is, and they've got this belief that they're not good enough, because all of these things come down to the self-belief component, right? It's whether you believe what your self-worth is going to impact the way you put yourself out there in the world. So if someone comes to me and says, right, well, I'm really concerned about what people think, and if that's a general what people think rather than, oh, it's my brother, my mother, my father, or whatever, then that's a different conversation, and we can dive deeper into that for that person. But if the general theme is, I'm really concerned about what other people think, underneath that is a self-worth component. 99.99% of the time, that's what that will be, because that is the foundation for everything that we come from, right? So that's one of them, putting yourself out there, fear of being judged. There's a lot of different flavors around that, but it's the same sort of thing. So I think that's one of the key ones that comes up. Another one is trusting themselves. Do you trust yourself? And if you don't trust yourself with certain things, then you can start to see patterns of not trusting yourself, like not being able to go beyond the next level. So there are quite a few, but those two come up for entrepreneurs quite a lot.
Yeah, okay. So it's like a lot of self-awareness and stuff like that. You kind of got to be in tune with yourself to recognize. The
problem is we have blind spots.
Yeah.
Me included, everyone has blind spots. And we are not always able to fully understand or see what those are. So if you're unaware of something, you can't change it. You might by accident do something that will, but if you're not unaware of something, you cannot change it. So my job is to be able to sit with people and spot patterns and listen to what people are saying, because people will give you their entire belief system around a subject in 5 minutes without realizing it. So if we talk about money, for example, which is a big topic for a lot of people in this world, within 5 minutes, you would have given me your entire belief system, or pretty much the entire belief system around it.
Yeah, okay. Money's
difficult to get. Doesn't grow on trees. Or there are a lot of cliche expressions that people use.
Yeah.
But they're individual to each person, and they're given to us from our parents, from school, from when we're young. Right? We grow up in society and learn these ideals. Once you know those, you can understand. Okay, so where does that belief come from? Because a belief is created from an experience that you've given a meaning. So think about this. People call it trauma as one word for it, and that's fine. You can use whatever you want, right? And they use the words big T, and the ideas of big T and little t. Some traumas are big, like sexual abuse, or some traumas are small, and it doesn't really matter what you label it is. But ultimately, the way that we work is, we have an experience. we put a meaning or multiple meanings to that experience that might be positive or negative, depending on our version and our meaning. And then we carry that experience around with us for the rest of our life unless we do something with it or put it down. And then that creates a belief system, right? And that belief system is basically what we look at life through. So everything that happens to us, the way we behave, the way we speak, the way we hold ourselves from a body language perspective, there are so many minute details that get driven by these beliefs that people are totally unaware of. And once we can identify where they've come from, I'm not someone who does a lot of talk therapy and sits there analyzing the past, but it is useful to join the dots of this experience created this belief. Aha, okay, I get that now. Now let's cut that cord, remove that experience, reframe it so it's not a negative thing that's holding on, we're holding on to. And then we can go, okay, well, what do we actually want to create moving forward? What set of beliefs are going to really help us get the goals that we want? And then we install a new program.
Right. That's wild that you can get all of that just from like a 5-minute conversation and stuff like that. That's
ultimately my job. I've been doing this for a long time now.
True.
And I think we all have our own superpowers. You have yours. Everyone in the world has a superpower. Some people have multiple superpowers. And one of mine is being able to listen and being able to spot sometimes what people are not saying, reading between the lines effectively and listening to and watching body language. And it's a blessing and a curse because you can't turn it off, or at least I find I can't turn it off. So I'm constantly scanning around and listening and my brain is always whirring in that gear. But it fascinates me to a point where I'm always just interested in what drives people. Why do people go out? Why do some people go out and have huge success? Why do some people go out and have huge success and then be miserable? Why do some people go out and have huge success and be really happy? What are the drivers and variables? And ultimately, it's our belief systems, and they're driven from our experiences. Freud would say it's all about our dad and our mum. And there is a big component about our childhood does shape a lot of what we do in the current present day.
Yeah. Okay. How do you, so after you've analysed the situation and you're helping people and stuff like that, how is it one of those things that works forever or for a long time, or how long do people normally work with you before they can kind of take over themselves? How do you keep that mindset, I suppose?
It's a good question. I always say that with new goals and new levels and new problems. Problems don't go away magically overnight.
True.
I can tell your brain to do and behave in certain ways, but ultimately when you get to the next income bracket or you achieve the next goal, there is a new set of problems that arise from that. You ask any entrepreneur who's gone from zero to £100,000 a month or whatever goal their revenue target they've hit, and talk to me about the problems you had when you first started versus the problems you have now. There will be some similarities, of course, but there will be some big differences too. So it depends. Some clients will come to me and work with one session, and it will be so clear what their problem is, and we can move it very fast, because my belief is that things don't need to take years. I'm not interested in being your talk therapist for 6 years and you come back every week and we go, how are you feeling this week?
Yeah.
Oh, not so good. Oh, talk to me about that. That doesn't nothing.
Yeah.
That really doesn't. It might give you a cathartic release for a few hours and you might feel good about yourself getting that off your chest. But the reality is it changes nothing inside your brain. So I'm not interested in that model. So it depends how much stuff you've done. If you've been involved in self-development and have some tools already, then that's different to someone who's just started or has not had the ability or interest and passion for doing that. And it depends where they're looking to get to and what they're looking to achieve. Some people, and a lot of entrepreneurs come and they will have a session or a series of sessions, depending on what's right. And it's just right, just go and fly. Just go. You don't need me right now. You're on course. I always say, if you're achieving, people say, well, how do I know when I need to come to you? Well, if you're achieving the goals that you want to achieve and you're on course, why would you change something? There's a couple of English brothers, Penn and Felix, who are in Canggu actually, who've done phenomenally well. They built a near 7-figure business in a year. They're incredible dudes. They live down the road from here. And I was having a conversation around ours with them, and it's they were like, I said, how would I know if I wanted to come and work with you? I said, dude, you don't need me. You both are working incredibly hard. You're reaching the goal that you are aiming for. Maybe once you reach that goal and you're sort of starting to look around and see that everything's not quite what you want it to be, then maybe we can have a conversation. But if something isn't broken, don't try and fix it.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's a big thing too for people. If you can set yourself some goals and you can achieve them and stuff like that, like keep doing that until you can't, and then kind of find the help or seek what you need to.
Right. I mean, I would add one thing to that. If you're not happy with the goals that you're aiming for and you think you've got more potential, which we all do, myself included, there's always a new level of something, then that might be worth a conversation. But if you don't want to, obviously that's, if you don't want the help, then obviously there's no point trying to reach out for it.
Yeah, that's it. I think going back to the self-awareness that we were talking about before, when I was going through my mental health journey, and I didn't realise for such a long time that I needed help or that anything was wrong. I just was feeling shit all day type of thing, and I just didn't know why. I was just like, it'll pass, and it just never did. And it took one person like taking me aside and be like, Sam, are you okay? And then I just kind of was like, oh wow, like, I actually don't. I asked myself that question a lot, but I didn't let it all out. I was just kind of that macho mindset type of thing. Just, yeah, should be right. And then when someone else asked me, I really actually thought about it. I was like, oh shit. And then now through my self-improvement journey, I've realized that I need to recognize that stuff, and having that self-awareness to be able to know, like what you were just saying about, if these goals aren't what you want, or I definitely think it's a big thing for that. One thing I do want to go back into though is, I know I touched on it just before, but the hypnosis, I'm still crazy about that. Can you explain to me how your mind works?
Sure. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
How long have you got?
Yes.
Okay, so our subconscious mind is primarily running the show. And a good example of this is people may have heard before is if you're driving down the road on a bike or in a car and you're on the motorway and all of a sudden your junctions appears and it's like, I don't remember driving the last 5 miles, 10 miles, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And it's almost like you snap out of it and then you're back into conscious thinking and you're driving the car. What happened for those last 5-10 miles?
That happens all the time too, and I have no explanation for you if you're asking me that.
Okay, so I'll tell you, your subconscious is taking over and keeping you alive effectively, right? You think what it's done in that time. So let's say, imagine you're on a motorway, on a highway, and you're driving a car. You're driving a car in a lane, so you're keeping yourself in a lane. You are checking the speed. You are checking objects around you moving at high speed. You are looking at multiple variables. I mean, you're taking millions of bits of information every second, but you're looking at multiple variables, and it's making decisions with changing gear, braking, speeding up, minute changes in the steering that you're unaware of. So this demonstrates to you, or should give you an indication of how powerful your subconscious mind is, right? One of the ways of showing you how that is. So if your subconscious is running the show most of the time, and you have this set of beliefs that are programmed into your subconscious effectively, and that shapes your life. So the beliefs that you have around money, for example, if you think money is the root of all evil, and people who have loads of money are evil people, horrible people, selfish, greedy, and you don't want anything to do with money, do you think if your goal was to become a successful entrepreneur, do you think that goal would be easily achievable?
No, you've got that bad relationship and your perspective on it's bad already.
Right. So our brain is like a radar. It's constantly searching for evidence to back up what you have planted in your subconscious. So if you think money is the root of all evil and all it does is give you greed, right? Or greed, it makes people greedy, then your brain is going to go, oh, okay, let me just have a quick look around the world every day, all day long, every minute, and give you some evidence to back that up. Because whether you believe it's the greatest tool on the planet that can help you grow and help people and do all these amazing things, or whether you think it's the root of all evil, your brain will give you evidence to prove that you are right.
Yeah, right. So it's kind of like the red car theory type of thing. You see a red car or you buy a red car, and then the next thing you know, you see red cars everywhere. It's the same type of principle.
It's the same thing. And once you understand that, it's great, because then you understand, okay, well, if I have the red car subconscious thing in my head that's scanning for red cars all the time, and we're talking about when you're buying a new car and you're buying a red car, you see them all over the place. But previously to that, you maybe see them, but they weren't that obvious. But now you see them everywhere because your brain is looking for them. That is all it is. And my version of manifestation is a little bit more science-based, and it is just that. If I really want something and I plant it in my brain and get really excited about that idea and meditate on that idea and make plans for that idea and get obsessed with that idea, then your brain is going to go, oh, okay, cool, you want this. All right, well, let me give you some evidence to show you some different things and help you hold yourself differently. And when you speak to people, it makes it's amazing how much this controls not just what you see and what you hear, but how you behave, how you speak, how you hold yourself. There are so many things that are impacted by your belief system. So once you understand all of this, you think, okay, well, how did that programming get there in the first place? What do you think the answer is to that?
Oh, I'm just going to have to go with like your childhood around, for the money example type of thing. If you didn't grow up in a rich family or something like that, and you really had to value money, or like you're struggling to put food on the table, or just like something like that, is where I would probably first go to.
Yeah, 100%. Like a lot of our beliefs come from the years of, up to 8 years old. Now, obviously there are other beliefs that can absolutely be created beyond that. Otherwise we'd be screwed and we'd always have our 8-year-old beliefs, traveled around with us the rest of our life, which would be a disaster. So yes, a lot of those come from our formative years, and they are hardwired in our brain because they are played on repeat. If someone tells you something enough consistently over a longer period of time, you'll believe it. And the crazy thing is we do that every day, all day without realizing it. So every time we're talking to ourselves internally or vocalizing something externally, when we do that enough, over time that becomes behavior, becomes pattern.
And is that the power of manifestation?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Look, we're in Canggu, we're in Bali, and a lot of people in Ubud who are listening to this probably like, no, it's some mystical, magical thing, and it may be. I by no means have all the answers, right? But my belief is that when we prime our subconscious and install the beliefs that are going to help us get what we want, our brain is going to be our best friend in helping us find that information. Because it doesn't care whether you plant really negative information in there that's going to help you. Like, if you started putting beliefs in there that the world is conspiring against me and that people are evil and all I'm ever going to get is bad luck, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and that's where the spirals happen. You can you can almost choose, can't you? You can choose to go down the spiral of the whirlpool and be stuck at the bottom, and that's where the depression and the anxiety and the trauma and all that type of stuff starts. Or you can decide to get caught in an updraft. It's just the perspective and the mindset that you've got on it.
100%. So you can test all these ideas too. I always say, don't believe me. Don't believe a word I'm saying. Go out and test these. And I often joke and say, okay, if you don't believe me, if you don't believe repetition over time gives you these things, and we'll talk about how hypnosis can fast track and get you in quicker rather than taking years. Go and watch, I always say to people, go and watch a really scary horror movie every day, multiple times a day for 30 days. Come back to me in those 30 days and tell me how your psyche is and how your mind is. Because I'm pretty sure I can take a good guess of where you'll be. Yeah, and it won't be a pretty place.
Yeah, right.
So if that tells you that repetition over time with something negative gets you that type of experience and that type of result mentally, and it will affect the external, it will affect how you behave, then it stands to reason that putting really positive stuff into that on repeat is going to be a really powerful way of getting really positive outcomes.
Yeah, gotcha.
So there's two things that we need to do. We need to be the gatekeeper of our mind, and we need to be really careful what we let in there. And we need to be really careful about what we say in there, because what we tell ourselves on a daily basis on repeat over time will give us those beliefs. And what hypnosis does is allows us to bypass the analytical mind and get into the subconscious. So if you imagine the subconscious mind is where all this programming stuff happens, right? Where it's stored. What blocks you, that gate between you getting into that subconscious mind, is your analytical mind, is the way I like to look at it.
Yeah, okay.
So if you think, if you're when you're waking mind now, you're probably thinking, God, I'm on this podcast. I've got to think about all these questions. I've got to think about, right, where's he going to go next? Can I keep on point? Right, I'm a bit nervous about this, or whatever's going on.
Yeah, how'd you know?
Okay. There's probably some narrative like that going on right now, right? So with that narrative, you can see that you have control over that, right? So that narrative is really, really important. But that analytical part is actually blocking you from getting into the subconscious. So when people talk about putting you into hypnosis, it's overcomplicated and basically misunderstood. But you are in and out of a hypnotic trance all the time. Right? When you're riding your bike and you come to and you're back in, you're conscious of where you're not conscious of where you've just been. That was trance.
Yeah, right.
When you wake up in the morning, you're like a little bit sleepy still. That's trance. There are a multitude of different brainwave states, from delta to theta to gamma, and you've probably heard about all these sort of things before, right? So we aren't always just in one. People think, I'm just in theta, I'm meditating. No, biology doesn't typically work like that. It's usually a flux or a spectrum that you're sliding back and forth all the time. But when you are in this relaxed state, in this sort of trance-like state, and hypnotic talk is designed originally by Milton Erickson, who's an absolute incredible human being, no longer with us, unfortunately. But when you use language at the right cadence and the right voice and in the right setting, and you allow someone to relax, which is what hypnosis basically does, when someone trusts you and allows you to put them in that relaxed state, then that analytical mind will drop away. A way you can experience this, you probably have already if you're listening to this, and you probably have as well, is when you do breath work. So when you do breath work and you're sitting there and your mind is running at 1,000,000 miles an hour, thinking about a million things, and you do like a 30-second round of breath work, where does your mind feels a bit more settled after
100%.
that, right? And it's like it's calmed down. Well, you can use, and I do use, mild breath work processes to get you into that state. I use light and other things, which we can touch on as well later if you want. But when you've got into that relaxed state, you are letting the guard down, which is the analytical mind. You're letting that down, and that guard is coming down, and then you have direct access to the subconscious. So instead of needing years or months and months of, which is why I'm not a huge fan of affirmations. People sort of say affirmations over and over again. I think you can use them, like sleep affirmations and things might add extra benefit, and it's not going to make anything worse. But if you're looking for a really fast, get in there, get the job done, change some patterns and move on, which is what my clients typically need, then this is why hypnosis works so effectively. So you drop that guard, you have direct access to the subconscious, and then if you know what words to use in the right order and say them in the right way, then you can, and the person that wants to change actually does want it, then you can affect change very quickly.
Right, that's insane. And you just mentioned before about the light. I actually saw on your story, it might have been this morning even, that there was big strobe light going on. And I was like, what is happening right now? Can you explain that to me? Because just for anyone listening or watching, it is Nick was sitting on his bed and had this flashing light just going, and I was just like, this is so interesting. I'm definitely going to ask him about that. So.
Yeah. Well, you should come over and have a session, and then you can experience it for yourself. For sure. So light is a very interesting thing. Light has a lot of different spectrums, a lot of different colors, and it affects our biology much, much more than people really understand. I think people understand a bit more about blue light these days and blue light blockers and all those sorts of things. It's a different conversation. Won't go down that avenue right now. But what you can use light for, strobing light specifically, is you can use it to change state of consciousness almost instantly.
Right.
So I can sit here and do a hypnosis with you, get into a super relaxed state, and we can 20, 30, 40 minutes, whatever you needed, we can go and I can just implant these amazing beliefs, and then I would give you a recording, and then you would listen to that over the next 20 to 30 days to keep that implanted and really install that and concrete that in, right? The advantage of the light is it gets you into that state very quickly. So what I'll do with clients, because I have clients that come to my house and we do sessions there. I also do online stuff as well, but a lot of the things I do is in person. So I can use that light to accelerate that process. You know what it's like when you sit there and try and meditate and your brain is on overdrive and you're just like, calm down, which is the worst thing to do. But you're trying to find it difficult, and it feels like the first 20 minutes of meditation is just trying to calm your bloody mind down. And then the last 20 minutes are actually where stuff meaningful is happening, right? Well, we can bypass that. we can use technology, and in this case light, to fast track you to that meditative state, to that brainwave state, to theta, to delta, to get you into that really hyper suggestive state where your subconscious is like a sponge and is just taking that in. So in the video on my Instagram, you'll see that I'm wearing headphones as well. So your eyes are closed and the light flatters. It's only white light that flickers. There's one small, slightly off white light in the middle, but the rest of it's white. But you see crazy colors. So it's putting to a hypnagogic state, which is basically a hypnotized state very quickly, to a relaxed state. And there are loads of different programs you can use. And then we're using music and hypnotic audios, so custom audios for clients to input it. So it's basically a very, very effective way of getting the maximum out of a hypnotic session in a very cool way, because you see loads of colors and your mind goes into incredible places. It's like, it's changing, it's in and out of dream state is how it feels. You're in and out of this dream state all the time. And you'll experience that when you're maybe going to bed and you sort of come to slightly and you sort of, maybe the TV's in the background, you're sort of conscious of it a little bit and then you're back into dream state. And like, it's a beautiful state to be in. I absolutely love it. So yeah, the light is basically a way of really just fast tracking that process.
Yeah. Okay. Does it like, because you've got your eyes closed and you've got this super bright light flashing in your eyes. Is it just like sending signals, or like it's obviously going through your eyelids because you can still like kind of see it and stuff like that? Because like when you made the analogy about the TV, I knew exactly what you meant. Like we've all been there when you leave the movie on or something like that and you're falling in and out of sleep and you're actually like the most tired you've ever been, or you fall back to sleep in an instant. I kind of understand exactly what you're saying in that. And it's kind of, that's the same thing that happens, is it?
Yeah, we can use, there are many different ways of using technologies and things to calm the nervous system, because that's ultimately our game, is to be able to calm the nervous system, to get into a place of parasympathetic rest and relax, right? And once you're in that state, then it's allowing us to be much more effective. So the light is just another method to be able to change your brain waves. Like binaural beats, people have probably heard of that, and you probably use that yourself at some point.
Yeah, like the 8D stuff and all that. Right,
yeah. It guides your brain, and I use a bit of that with my audio as well. I have an engineer who creates amazing audios with my voice and music and everything. It's like we've taken it to a new level. And binaural beats are basically using two tones, one in right ear and one in left, and they're ricocheting off each other effectively. And it's gently driving the brain to that state, to a delta or theta brainwave state. So all of these modalities, and I mix them, most of those together, using light, using voice, using sound, using binaural beats, using music, using crafted soundscapes, to be able to put your brain into as hyper suggestive state as possible to get the best results possible in the shortest amount of time.
Yeah, okay. That's super interesting. I like that, because I actually probably do a little bit of this stuff without even noticing. Like I've got a playlist on Spotify. I think it's just called Beats to Think To. And it's like one consistent beat, like the same speed.
Yep.
And there's no words or anything, but I couldn't even tell you when the song changes or like what I'm listening to. But if I ever want to focus on anything and like, you know, I've got to lock in and do some work or something, I just flick that on and I just like, it's like all the noise and clutter kind of like disappears.
Yeah, 100%. Well, it tells me a little bit about you. You're probably audio preferenced. I'm the same. Yeah. So you probably are. Do you find it difficult to visualize things?
To be honest, no.
Okay. So what typically people will find is that if you're audio preferenced, then sometimes it's difficult to actually start visualizing. You know, when people say, right, visualize this, it's quite difficult. What it tells you is it basically tells you what a method your brain is best at assimilating information. Yeah, so for me, audio is great. I can sit there and listen to audio, whereas reading something like books, my brain freaks out. Yeah. It doesn't like that at all. You the same in that respect?
Yeah, similar.
Okay. Yeah. So understanding how it works, and you can start to understanding how your brain assimilates information the best way helps you to understand which tools that you can leverage, because everyone's different. And you know, for some people, like again, hypnosis is misunderstood quite a lot, because people see a lot of stage hypnotism. and fast hypnotism, right? And like, you know, people acting like chickens and stuff. And, you know, there is merit to that. And some people are absolutely hypnotized for sure. But the problem with that is there's a lot of other psychology in play that people are trying to pretend and want to be part of it and all this sort of other stuff, right? And this sort of speed hypnotism stuff, I'm not a huge fan of. I think a lot of it is just to add extra excitement to Instagram feeds. And there are a lot of people out there doing it. There is some merit, and there are some great hypnotists out there that are using good things. But for me, that it's just adding dramatics for dramatic's sake.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Well, I suppose where I want to go next is what's the future hold for you? Where is Nick Elvery going to go next? What have you got anything in the pipeline? Anything you want to do more of? Or
yeah, we've got lots of things. My lovely girlfriend Megan is sat on the other side of the cameras over here, and we are in the process of just about to launch Bali Connect here in Bali, in Canggu specifically, which is basically it's a private network for seasoned entrepreneurs who have been in Bali either for a long time or just landed and plan to stay here. So a big part of my life has been about organising raves and parties and car shows and things. Bringing people together has been a big part of who I am for a long time. So we've seen that there has been a need for bringing people of a similar caliber and above together to help create new ideas, to forge friendships, to build networks, etc. So we're doing a launch party in Canggu on the 5th of April, which is going to be the start of Bali Connect. So that's a big piece of what we're doing. And on that, we're going to have masterminds, we're going to have events, retreats, and all these good things in the future. We've created a legal business here in Bali, PT, PMA, and we're going to be doing it, you know, all above board and how people should be doing it in this country. So that's one thing that we're really excited about. From a perspective of what I do from hypnosis, it's just carry on. How can I be better? How can I serve clients more? You know, I'm always interested, and I spent, you know, £250,000 over my time on technology and courses and stuff. So I'm at a phase now where I'm not trying to learn too much more. I've always got my sort of fingers in the pie, so to speak, with professional development to a degree, but it's really about how can I hone what I've got? Because a lot of the stuff in my mind is in my mind. And it's like I'm working with Ryan here in Canggu at the moment, Harrington, and just he's helping me consolidate a lot of my ideas and putting them into systems and ways of being able to refine those, basically. So how can I do my job better? But I say I'm always trying to put my finger on the next cutting edge tech and things that can help. And my experience, unfortunately, with the majority of things out there is that they are crap. You know, a lot of the money that I spent over the years has been on products and services that haven't actually done what they said they're going to do. In some cases, have made it even worse and harmed, you know, and so I'm always keeping my eye on that. But ultimately, it's about keeping it to the basics of what I know, keeping it to the foundational stuff, which is your beliefs shape your world. You change new beliefs and install new beliefs to match the goals that you want, and it just becomes a lot easier.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. That's gonna be good because like I've been to a couple of the things that you've hosted and all that type of stuff, and it's obviously amazing and 99% of the reason why you're here, I guess. But just to kind of wrap it up, I guess if you were to give someone some advice, what would like just anyone in any point of life, what do you think is the best advice that you could give them?
I think one of the most important things is being or realizing you have more control with your inner dialogue than you think you do. I remember a friend of mine used to say a long time ago, I haven't seen him for many years now, but he said that I can't help how I think or how I feel, I think it was, or how I think, one of those two. In what he meant by that is it doesn't, you know, I can't control what comes into my head. If I feel sad, I'm sad. If I feel this, I'm that. And it's like that to me, when he said it, it's like, I don't believe that, because that means that I'm always at the mercy of how I think and feel. And I don't think that's true. I think there are more challenging times when, especially when you've had very traumatic experiences, upbringings, or recent traumatic events, that does make it harder to do. But our job should be to create a beautiful garden inside our mind, to pull up those weeds of those negative thoughts and and plant really positive thoughts. And you can do that in a myriad of ways. And the two things I would say, and hopefully by when this goes live, I'll drop a link to my Instagram. You can follow me on there, but also to the website, which will have some free hypnosis audios and stuff for the listeners. Because one of the things that you can do, I mean, Tony Robbins does, like, he has this priming ritual in the morning, which you're probably aware of. I have my own version of that, which is using hypnosis and all the soundscapes and things that I've talked about, engineered by sound engineers, that can allow you to really start the day powerfully. Because if you start the day in a shitty mood, the likelihood of the rest of your day going to be shitty is probably quite high. But if you can prime your subconscious from the word go, listening to a self-hypnosis audio, and really prime it in a way that has set you up for success for that day, then you're stacking the odds in your favor. So I would say how you start and finish the day are really important. And what you say to yourself, like that internal narrative, that garden in your mind, you need to be very conscious about what you're saying internally and what else you're letting in. Like, one of the things the last thing I'd leave people with is who you spend time with really matters.
Big believer in that as well.
It's huge. But when you say to people, they usually give the response you have. But when you ask them who you actually spend time with, oftentimes they realize that actually those people aren't really the people that are on the same wavelength or on the same goals spectrum or trying to, because, and this is, one of the reasons that Bali Connect is so important for people, is that you want to surround yourself with people who are on the same path. They may be doing different things, maybe going slightly different places, but they're on the same path in respect to what they want to achieve and the things that they need to be achieving. So I think that's my long-winded answer to your question.
I think it was a perfectly winded answer to the question. But yeah, man, I just want to say thanks for coming on. It's been great. And the conversation was wild. Like, I'm still processing a lot of it. So thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Easy.